And I was praying, and I asked God, what do you see here? And as I looked at that, all of a sudden I realized with the schedule I had and the two people I work with who are great people, through the position I'm in, I was able to work out flexibility of schedule that I did not have in my old position. Through that flexibility, I was able to go to the encounter group. And in the encounter group, I accepted Christ. Okay, how big of a negative could that be? I could not have done that in what I did before the position I did. Looking at that, then I started realizing, you took your kids to preschool every morning. Because of this job you've got, you were able to go to school with them, hang out in the car with them, meet their teachers, and spend time with your 3 and 4 and 5-year-old that in your old position you would have never done because you would have been at work. And that just hit me as like, wow, I never saw that. And then, through my accepting Christ and everything else, I was able to, for like a year and a half, go to the 9 o'clock prayer on Thursday mornings at Blue Ridge, which was incredible as a new believer, actually, to go into that environment. I could have never, ever have done that in the other position that I was in. So I just realized that work schedule and where I was working, this was this big, heavy burden I was carrying around. God had a plan when I went up there. God knew where I was going to go. And it was a blessing to have that flexible schedule. I still have it, and I don't look at it as that negative now because I can. It's flexible. I'm able to do things that I could have never done in my other position. So that dark cloud that I carried around so long, it truly became a blessing that I didn't see because I was so fixed on me, me, me. So when I came to that realization, it's like, God, that's right. You've given me all this. You've given me the ability to do this. So that's not a negative. That's a blessing you gave me that I didn't see. So I just laid that one down and walked away from it. And since that time, yes, I have seen those blessings, those different areas. But yet I could still feel other things that seemed out of place. And one of them was I kept looking at my children who, I was able to take them to preschool. That was great. Well, they're not in preschool anymore. Well, now I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm not able to do this with my kids, and I'm shortchanging my kids. My kids aren't able to do things because of me. And the more I looked at it, and 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were here talking about God's plans for our life, and I realized that I was holding this for my kids. This burden of, quote unquote, theirs, that I couldn't do this, I couldn't teach them homework, I couldn't play with them and all that. I looked at it, and that was God's plans when I went up there. I'm looking at all the stuff I couldn't do with my children as a burden of them, that I'm not being the dad I was supposed to be. And then God opened my eyes to realize that since I'm not home and my wife works nights, my kids are spending time with their grandparents here in town. Both my parents and my mother-in-law live in town. And that's where my kids are. All of a sudden, this big burden of I can't teach my kids to ride a bike at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday. I realized my dad taught my girls to ride a bike. So for the rest of their life, their memory of, when they go back to remember how they rode a bike, it was with their granddad. How cool is that? I didn't have that with my grandparents, just because they live so far away. I realized, God, you've blessed them with grandparents that love them. My dad works on, well, he still works on them, but he works on his own vehicles. And he told me one day that he was changing the oil in one of his cars, and he felt something. He does it out in the backyard. Felt something next to his leg, and of course he probably thought it was a snake or something. But then it was my little 5-year-old, and slid up underneath that car with him and wanted to help. So now every time he fixes something, she helps him. What a memory for her. It's not a burden that I can't show her that stuff. That's not something that they're going to miss. They've got their time with me, but yet they're having time with their grandparents. The same mother that patched me up when I fell down and skipped my knees is patching up my kids. How awesome is that? And here's their burden that I was carrying around. Oh, my poor kids aren't getting this, that, and the other. And God just told me, look, they're not worrying about it. I've got them. They're with their parents. Why are you carrying something for them that they don't even see? So I just took that to God and counted what a blessing. Not everybody has that. It's a blessing that my kids have their parents, their grandparents, to do those things. So, I laid that one down. And I walked away from it. It's not something for me to do. And this is, over a time this has taken, that as I let these go, I could see God in a different way. And I started looking, truly, this is recently, about my marriage. I'm married. Those of us who are married know it has its challenges. But I was looking at my wife and my life and the things that, since I accepted Christ, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be difference. But I started looking at how I could change. This is our problem, so I need to change this. I need to change this. And once again, it was me. It was me trying to change the whole picture. And then I realized as I was going through all that, I was looking at our marriage as this huge thing that I could fix. Through a lot of prayer, God showed me, said, William, you're responsible for this part of your marriage. You bring that to me, you give that to me, and I've got it. But Jeannie, that's her name, Jeannie has stuff that she's got to do in her life, and guess what? You can't fix hers. That's her burden. That's her part of this marriage that she has to, but yet I had the whole thing in my hand. And talks led to, not really fights, but, conflicts, disagreements. And as I prayed, God was saying, William, you've got to fix this in yourself. This is what you can do in this marriage. You come bring that to me. But Jeannie's is Jeannie's. It's not yours to carry. It's not yours to hold. And a couple weeks ago, I just knelt down by the bed. And as I was praying, I realized that there's things in me that I can give to God. But there's things in her that she has to. I can't carry that. I can lead by example. I can pray for her. We can pray for her here at the tables. We can pray for my marriage. We can pray for her. But, her burdens are her burdens to carry. It's not mine. I'm not going to change her. I can't change her. So I gave that to God. I just put Jeannie, I put our marriage into his hands and asked him to change what about me, what needs to be changed. But what's hers is in his hands for her to change. And I laid that one down. I just laid that down and walked away, and that right there was huge, because there was a difference immediately. And that lightness, that thing, the parts that I struggled with, they were gone. And all of a sudden my prayer started changing. And the way I interacted with people, it started changing. It became real, because I realized I'm letting these go. This is stuff that I dropped in 2007. I dropped it all, but somehow through there I started picking up this person, this cause, this issue, everything else. I started picking it up, and it weighed me down. And as I remember distinctly, as I prayed that prayer, it was 3 weeks ago, and I pray it every night before I go to bed, right by our bed. God, this is in your hands. That's a weight that's gone. There's no discussions anymore, and there's things I've talked about to her in the past. This past week, she's actually mentioned some of those herself. That's coming from in her. That's not coming from me, because I quit. I quit trying to change her because it wasn't me. But then as I've prayed for her, now she's starting to say the same things. And that's God. That's God working in her. I'm not trying to change her. And all this is, all that was great, but yet I could still tell. I could still tell there was something else that was bothering me. Something else that I was doing. And as I started to pray to release that, and there's something that's been going on for a year or so, a cause that I've taken up, I've gotten upset with. There's just things going on that I can't control, but all of a sudden I thought, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do this. And I've noticed in that I've really stumbled on that. And it's silly to let all this other stuff go, but it seems like every time I let one go, I go pick up another one. And I looked into this, and I saw that I was having conversations that were not godly at all about this. I had anger. I had frustration. That's just pure sin coming out. And I realized that as I dwelled on that, who I'm telling people I am in Christ, who I'm telling people Christ, they're not seeing that. And I could actually go back and, at work, I dispatch for FedEx, so I talk back and forth through the computer to people. So the one thing about that, you can always go back and look and see what you said. And there was one conversation that was pretty bad. I went back and reread it and thought, I can't believe I said that. And it's there. They read it. And when I realized it, I was like, that's stupid. If God is who God says he is, if God is who you say he is,